Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 417 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm here with Tracy Brinkmann. And I'll tell you what, this guy has overcome some horrendous stuff to get where he's going and where he's still at and where he plans to go in the future and some unbelievable stuff. You just want to hang in here and listen to his story. He's quite inspirational. So hope you didn't miss episode 416. Oh my goodness, Natalie Holiday. I met her on the new social media thing, Clubhouse, and what a go-getter this lady is. Oh my goodness, she's into all kinds of stuff. She had to pivot because of the pandemic, and she's, you just don't want to get in her way. Let me put it that way. So that was episode 416. And if you want to listen to a back episode, you go to screwthecommute.com and then the episode number /416. And this is 417 with Tracy Brinkmann. Now, how would you like to hear your own voice here on Screw the Commute? Well, if the show's helped you out at all in your business or given you ideas to help you start a business, we want to hear about it. Visit screwthecommute.com and look for a little blue sidebar that says send a voicemail. Click on it, talk into your phone or computer, and tell me how the show's helped you. And hey, put your website in there so you can get a big shout out in front of thousands of people on a future episode of Screw the Commute. Now, we give away a really, really great ebook just to thank you for listening to the show. But you will thank me if you do even a portion of what's in this book. It's how to automate your business. It's how I've handled up to 150,000 subscribers and 40,000 customers without pulling my hair out. So check that out. Grab it at screwthecommute.com/automate free. Screwthecommute.com/automate free. While you're over there, pick up a copy of our podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. So you can put us on your cell phone, tablet, and take us with you on the road. All right, I know people are still freaking out because of the pandemic and a lot of pain and suffering out there, and I really feel for that. However, I have been preaching for 23 years about the value of being able to sell online and sell from home. I've been on the commercial internet doing it myself for 27 years, which is when the commercial internet started around 1994. And it hasn't affected me or my business at all or my students. And so a lot of people are saying, well, I wish I would have listened to you a long time ago. I said, yeah, I bet you do. So it's never too late to learn this stuff. And it's a great thing to pass on or get your children or grandchildren or nephews and nieces involved in. And so about 13 years ago, I formalized the training in the form of a school. It's the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the country, probably the world, licensed to operate by SHEV, the State Council on Higher Education in Virginia. But you don't have to be in Virginia because it's good quality distance learning. It's not like these colleges today that, all of a sudden they got a distance learning class and they developed it in 2 days. We've been doing it for 13 years. And by the way, I'm really down on these colleges. I mean, I have an anti-scam show in development in Hollywood, and these colleges would be in jail, in my not so humble opinion, if they weren't colleges, because they're charging crazy fees. We even have a quiz to show called 7 college ripoffs that you just wouldn't believe that they're doing to families and so forth. And then they just teach you how to protest, and then you're competing for jobs at Starbucks when you get out. So we don't like that. My school is hardcore techniques that every business on earth needs. You can have a career and is on its way in as little as a few months. So check it out at imtcva.org. And if you are in my mentor program, which I'll tell you about later, then you can get a scholarship to this school that you can use yourself or gift to a loved one in your life. All right, let's get to the main event. Tracy Brinkmann's here, and he's he hit rock bottom using drugs, went through a divorce, a bankruptcy, and even, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine the death of an 18-month-old daughter. But he went from that to running the planning and marketing departments of some of corporate America's finest companies, and then started his own company helping driven entrepreneurs and coaches scale their businesses by crystallizing and monetizing their passions. And now he's hosting his podcast focus on driven dark horse entrepreneurs. Tracy, are you ready to screw the
Oh, I am
commute?
absolutely ready.
How you doing, man? It's been like 200-300 years since I talked to you.
Man, it's been a long time. Like I was just chatting with you before, I pulled out my Wake 'em Up book that you put out on business presentations, and then the Wake 'em Up Kick series for the what was that? The teleseminar for speakers. And of course, I used a lot of those tips back in the when you got started, like you said, way back in the 90s when the commercial internet started. I used a lot of those tips to launch a pretty good speaking career. And then that lobbied that into coaching.
Yeah, well, a lot of those things are evergreen, and yeah, I jumped on it very early, and that I saw this. Back in the day, you've been around a while. It was hard
Yep.
enough to sell your products. Like I was selling cassette tapes and
Yep.
physical books, and it was hard enough to sell them across the street, let alone around the world. So when the commercial internet started, I said, I'm going to figure this out, but I didn't make a nickel for the first 2 years trying to figure it out until I got good training. So that's what
Mhm.
both of us do as our value in the marketplace. We sell our own stuff and then we help others to do what they need to do.
And I think that's one of the key lessons right there, isn't it? Is that, yeah, you want to get out there and you want to be entrepreneurial and you want to start, paying the bills with that entrepreneurial journey, but it doesn't happen tomorrow, right? It takes a little time. You've got to get your feet in the water. I mean, of course, we've all heard the quote unquote overnight stories of success. And when you dig under the surface, usually those overnight stories are a decade long.
At least. Yeah. That's for sure, and yeah, you've done some really great things in the face of some big adversity. And take us back to when you started out. Or I mean, were you an entrepreneurial kid?
I actually was. I was one of those kids that my dad was in the military, so we moved all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I developed this, I guess, a sense of humor, this ability to connect with folks with humor. And as that kid, we would be at a school in elementary, and they would have that pencil machine, and you could get to, oh no, sometimes you'd get three pencils, but usually two for a nickel. And I would have them in class. And when some kid needed a pencil, it was like, sure, give me a quarter, give me a dime, right? You upcharge it.
Yeah.
That's supply and demand.
Right.
I've got the supply. So it started there, and then on into high school. I got into cars, and I wasn't so much the engine guy, but I loved stereo systems and paint and body work. So everybody was coming to me to paint their cars, install their stereo system. Sure, no problem. Here it is. Just give me a couple $100, I'll install your stereo system. So that continued on, and I actually joined the military right out of high school. And when I got out a few years later, I settled back into Southern California with a new set of skills and started doing database programming for insurance provider organizations in Southern California. So right there at the boom of .com, right? I was fine. I mean, I was actually doing really, really well. Had good coin in the pocket, and of course, that was about the same time that cocaine and speed was just everywhere, and I got sucked into that
Oh
scene.
boy.
And that's like you alluded to in the opening there, got into the drug scene, let the business just fall on the wayside. But I took the same skills that I used in business and started applying it in, a more illicit manner, people management and everything else, and did that for about 2 years. And unfortunately, well, actually, I'll say fortunately, 50 kicked the door open to my condo. I
Oh,
wasn't
this is
there when
Hawaii. Hawaii.
yeah,
Yeah.
Y50.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's still in Southern California,
Okay.
but it was a wake up call. I was out on probably a pretty party heavy 3-4 day binge, and I came home that Sunday morning and saw my door kicked open. And it was just like you'd see it in the movies. Things are thrown everywhere, furniture's flipped over, Rice Krispie treats are poured out on the floor and everything. And it was kind of you'll use the phrase a come to Jesus moment. I had a 3-month-old daughter, and now it wasn't my life that I was potentially hosing up
Right.
for, I'll keep it clean. So, I call her my savior, because if it had been for her, I may have had that arrogant attitude like, oh, I can beat these guys. And, I'd be sitting having this conversation with you from behind bars.
Mm.
Um, So that was, that was roller coaster, ride number one. And I think a lesson I took out of that, well, obviously, then don't do drugs, was coming out of that scene. I could have walked right back into the marketplace with my computer skill set, but my confidence had taken a serious kick to the head, right? And so I went out there and started building my confidence back up, by doing, accounting jobs and warehouse jobs, and for about 6 8 months, just doing those little, I'll call them menial. I mean, I don't want to underrate anyone who's out there doing it, but I've done it, so I know it's not easy and it's not always fun, but certainly you can start building your confidence back up through these tasks. Hey, I'm out here, I'm providing a service, I'm doing something to, pay for my daughter's well-being. And then when I felt confident again, I stepped into the market, and that's what landed me, my rise to corporate America at Coca-Cola for 12 years, and then into Home Depot and David's Bridal and Victoria's Secret, just in each one of those phases, learning something new about business and marketing.
First of all, I did not know that you were a veteran, so I want to thank you for your service. We're very pro military here on our podcast, and also I want you to mark in your calendar to get back with me in September. Is Vetpreneur Month on
Okay,
Screw the Commute, so we'll have you back
absolutely.
on again. Then the next thing I want to ask you is like, okay, all those years you spent in corporate America, which, I don't know, if you've heard me rag on corporate America, but it's like, I say, I just couldn't stand it there because you got to have a 2 week committee meeting to take a leak, So,
Yeah, right.
so how did you survive that time? What did you do in those corporations and what did you learn?
In Coca-Cola, I was all about marketing and planning, and I landed in a pretty lucky position. And I had a director of marketing for Coca-Cola North America that almost gave me free reign. I had a pretty wide scope, and she actually created a role for me that where my role was to go out and find places to improve the business. Which, being an entrepreneurial spirit at heart, was just like, I could just go crazy. It was like a playground.
So
But then
don't tell me you started with the new Coke. That wasn't your idea, was it?
actually, that was not me, thank goodness.
Okay, that's good.
But there's actually an interesting story behind that. Anyway, so again, like I was saying, they give you pretty much free reign, which kept me entertained for a number of years, actually just over a decade. I was there for 12 years. But like you're saying, at some point you're going, I'm really not happy here anymore. So I moved on to the next venture, which would have been Home Depot. And in there, I was in charge of everything on their website. So, you can imagine back in the, late 90s,
Right.
they had this mentality of everything that's available out there. They were almost Amazon-ish about it.
Mhm.
They wanted on their website. They called it their extended aisle mentality. So there was a lot of challenges with that. And so getting that up and running and keeping that in stock so your customers were happy, that taught me a lot about merchandising. And I did very well there to the point where I was actually wooed away from Home Depot by a catalog brand in Ohio. So they brought me on to be the director of their planning and marketing merchandising team for one of their catalog brands. And that was awesome because now I was running an arm of the business. So I felt very entrepreneurial in that. But then again, you hit that ceiling where you're like you said, the 2 week meeting just to go to the bathroom, right?
Right, right.
And there's times you're like, here's the right thing to do, and you lay it all out, and you show them the data, and they're like, yeah, no, we're not doing it that way. And then when they were bought by HSN, I'm like, okay, this is my exit time right here. And uh, during all of this, through the latter Coca-Cola years and on into Home Depot and Frontgate, I actually was running some side hustles, right? So I met
Okay.
you in that time frame. I was doing speaking wherever people would listen to me, and I started my public speaking when my daughter got sick, and when she was on her way, she was waiting on the organ transplant list, and before she passed away, I was talking to anybody that would listen, and probably quite a few that didn't want to listen, about the benefits of being an organ donor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that got me in front of small groups. I actually, went up to Pennsylvania and gave a speech in front of like 1,500 doctors and nurses. And I'm like, that feeding off the audience. And I know you can resonate with this, right? That energy you get from an
Right.
audience is engaged with your message. It was like, okay, I got to keep doing this. And that started, a whole nother path of side hustle, of doing public speeches and, finding product to match with those speeches, so that entrepreneurial hustle was there, which is probably what kept me in corporate as long as it did, because I still had that entrepreneurial zing happening on the side, until it's like, you know what, I just got to stop this merry-go-round of getting permission to go potty, or getting permission to service a customer, right? When when you look at someone and say, hey, if we want to service this customer, we need to do XYZ, and they go, yeah, that doesn't bring us in any revenue. And you're like, what? Hello.
Yeah, that's the way it is. So here's something I'd like to delve into, and I've heard you talk about it on other places, so that's why I don't feel bad about asking it. But
Sure.
this passing of your young daughter, that could just wipe some people out off the face of the earth. They'd just be gone and depressed and accomplish nothing the rest of their life. How did you cope with that? What mechanisms did you do to cope with that? I mean, I can't think of anything that we run into as entrepreneurs. Bankruptcy's nothing. I mean,
Who
all
cares?
the
Yeah.
rotten things that happen in business, but nothing like that. How did you cope with that?
It was probably twofold, and you're absolutely right. I have met a lot of people on this planet that I do not like for whatever reason, but I've never met anyone I dislike so much that I would wish that upon them, because
Right.
it's just one of those things. If you haven't been through it, you can't fathom it, and I don't want you to be able to fathom it. For me, it was like I was saying, it was twofold. One, I still had my first daughter, who was probably 4.5, almost 5 by this point, and so here she is still looking at me for hope, and, what can I do in the world? Being, the super dad. I was still super dad at that point,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I still had her. So she was really my anchor. And then I was lucky enough, still working at Coca-Cola at this time, that I could go to all these amazing self-improvement, self-help, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Tim Hopkins events that they were having back in those time frames. So I threw myself into work and personal development, and the blend of the two kind of kept me grounded from slipping back. And man, it makes it 3 now. I paused in this personal development journey to really look back into the eye of the abyss of that drug scene that I had been in. I turned around and said, okay, I need to look at that so I don't slip back into it, and learn the lessons of that, the good ones as well as the bad ones, to say, I don't want to go back there. Let's make sure the signals that would have been up there for me going into it, that I pay attention to them as I, walk this precarious line of being. I'm still really depressed. I was, kind of hiding it in work and personal development, but as the personal development rolled through and I started paying attention to more than just the surface message, it's like a little self-examination, and that turned and told me, hey, you need to look back at that and learn from that so that you don't fall back into it. And I think that's like life lessons or business lessons. It's like you'll keep making the same damn mistake unless you turn and look at the data and look at the results and look at the actions you took, and what you got out of them, and say, oh, well, this is where I keep tripping up right here. No wonder I keep falling on my face.
So some self-reflection then, and combined with personal development techniques.
Oh, absolutely. And it's self-reflection with honesty. I mean, we can all like, oh,
Mm.
I scratched the surface. Yeah, I looked at that. Here's why I did it. Okay, but you gotta go a little deeper, right? It's like, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Go where I want to make money. Well, let's go a little deeper than that, because just making money isn't going to get you past the first obstacle. You're going to hit that first obstacle and you're going to go, ouch, that hurt. I'm not doing this anymore. And you're going to go back into corporate America.
Yikes. Boy, you're not supposed to cuss on this episode. Oh man. So I'm going to tell on you a little bit here.
Hit me.
So we were supposed to record this yesterday, I think,
Yes.
and you said, "Hey, I gotta take this." Well, being the super dad at
Yeah.
this now, this 5-year-old that you were talking about a minute ago is not 5 anymore,
No, no, no.
and so
She's
you
not.
had to take her somewhere, and you said to me, "Family comes first," and I'm
Hmm.
thinking, I can't argue with that. So we rescheduled for today. So tell us about how she's progressed in life and how that relationship is.
Well, the relationship with her is amazing. We went through some, obviously, the roller coaster ride, but
She was 5
sh
when the other child passed.
right, she's in her 30s now,
Yeah.
and she's got a daughter of her own, and she's married and off and doing amazing things. She started college a little while back, while my youngest is that's what
Oh,
we
this is a
raised.
different
Oh,
child.
this is a
Okay.
different one. Yeah,
Oh,
I've got
okay.
like 4 in the pocket now, right?
Oh, okay.
And the youngest is
Overachiever you are, huh? Right? Is that
overachiever, right?
okay?
She's going after an animal behavior major at a college about 40 minutes away from home here. So we were down there doing the last visit, kind of checking things out and making sure that we're going to give it the nod. And I think one of the cool things that you were saying at your intro was, there's a lot of shady things that happen in the collegiate
That's for
experience.
sure.
And so we spent a lot of time in uh, doing research on, what, we don't want to go through the I don't want to call it libertarian, but we don't want to go through the mind melding, the mind
Right.
adjusting of some of the scholastic ventures that are out there.
Yeah,
And
and at
we
least
found
she's getting a skill here.
yeah, yeah. So we
I
we
mean, is
went
that
looking for a
considered
place that's
vocational school? Is that
uh,
is that
it is not. It is a independent school. It is not a public school. It is a privately funded college here locally and in a little town. So it was built. Oh God, what is it? 1860, I believe it was built. It was in the late
I
1800s.
remember that. Yeah, when I saw that on the news when it came out.
Yep.
It's how old
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it
yeah,
was about 10 years old when I saw it.
yeah. My school is considered vocational
Oh,
internet
okay.
marketing. You wouldn't think of it like that. You think more plumbing and heating and stuff. But
Right, right.
yeah, it's vocational. So I thought with the animal stuff, it would be vocational.
Most of their main majors are definitely vocational. They're really known for their nursing program.
Yeah.
They're really known for their animal behavior. It's like one of the 10
So it is
places you can
vocational then, right?
they're very vocational.
Okay.
They don't focus on the athletics and all that
Right.
noise. They have athletic programs, but that's not their focus.
Right. Right. Yeah. So she's going to come out with a great, because I'm a total animal nut. I mean, I rescued
Oh,
tons of
yeah. So is
animals
she.
and yeah.
Yeah, she's gonna come out with an amazing set of skills to go out and, part of the program is they actually get to go work at the local zoo here in Milwaukee and like the last year or year and a half of their time there. So she'll come out with experience and a skill set so she can step out into the workforce. And I think on top of that, and is the connections that you make as a part of that interaction with the zoo or the wildlife, working with the wildlife organizations out here.
Now, is she considered being an animal trainer?
She has not, and I think that's more of the some of the bad taste that gets left in the mouth of when you first think of animal training, you think of circuses or shows or different things like that. She's going more for the animal health, the animal welfare, going out and working with the Department of Wildlife and what have you.
The reason I bring it up is because, I have a protection dog company, and the trainers that I use have a pet training company.
Okay.
And they are cleaning up. I mean, we're talking 20, 30, $40,000 a month for
Nice.
for
Nice.
pet training, because people are crazy about their pets. And actually, I don't if there's anything good that came out of the pandemic, that people were stuck at home with their pets more and seeing what little monsters they're raising. So they go and get the training for them. So that's just to let her keep that in the back of her head if she really wants to
Absolutely.
make some money and with these kids. So we got to take a brief sponsor break, and then when we come back, we're going to ask Tracy what's a typical day look like for him and his company, and we're going to talk about his podcast that I'm going to be on here one of these days, and how he stays motivated, which is probably tuition for the behavior school was probably one of one of the motivations. So folks, about 23 years ago, I kind of turned the internet marketing guru world on its head, in that people at my level were charging 50 or 100 grand up front to teach this stuff. And I'll tell you what, I knew a lot of these people. If you give them 50 or 100 grand up front, you'd never see them again. So it was kind of a lot of ripoffs going on at the time. Still is, by the way. So I said, that's not fair to small business people. I'm going to fix this. So I kind of turned everything upside down, and I charged an entry fee, which was probably 10 times cheaper than what those people were charging. And then I tied my success to your success. So for me to get my 50,000, you have to net 200,000. Well, people really love this, and 1,700 plus students later, and 23 years, it's still going strong. It's at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. It's the longest running, most successful, most unique program ever of its kind. And I don't feel bad saying that, because I've speaking of dogs, I've triple dog dared people to put a program up against mine line for line and see who wins. And nobody will do it, because I'm a crazy fanatic. I help people on weekends, evenings, holidays. I accidentally threw a teleclass on Thanksgiving one time. I didn't notice it was Thanksgiving. But guess what? 60 people showed up for it. So I guess they didn't want to have to listen to Uncle Joe screaming at the football teams on TV. But you have an immersion weekend at the Retreat Center in Virginia Beach with our TV studio, and you actually live in this estate with me. Of course, when COVID's done, everything is one-on-one. We don't like group coaching, because if you're advanced, the new people are lost. And if I'm talking to the new people, the advanced people are bored. So it's all one-on-one with me and my entire staff. You get the scholarship to the school, which is one of the best legacy gifts you could ever give to a young person, because they can have their own career. We have people making money a few months into the school because of the demand is so high for young people to handle social media and do all these things. So you can have your own business and work for somebody else, or both, whichever you want. So anyway, check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. So like I said, it's the longest running ever in this field. And no high pressure. I'll be glad to talk to you about your future online, and the young people in your life's future online. Plus, if they get money, they won't come home and live in your basement. How about that? So check it out. All right, let's get back to the main event. Tracy Brinkmann is here, and he has overcome some very serious downsides in his life, and he's been inspired by his own children to straighten his act up, and boy, he sure did. So Tracy, what does a typical day look like for you now?
I think a typical day looks like a bit of outreach, right? One of the things I like to do is a lot of organic marketing, and here lately it's been a lot of organic on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a part for me. That means, folks will be, good old Mark Zuckerberg and his infinite algorithm will send you all those folks that like, hey, connect with this guy and connect with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they reach out to you. And I have kind of a series of messages. I'll engage with folks. Obviously, the first thing you want to do is take a look at their profile, and if
Right.
they don't look like someone you want to be a part of
Right.
their lives, then you move on. But certainly, you do an accept, send a message, say, hey, thanks for the request. And one of the questions I like to ask them right out of the gate is, what is your superpower, right? And that's usually something that kind of catches people off guard, like, oh, wait a minute, I've never thought about that. And it starts a conversation, and I'm all about relationships and conversations. And if I can help you, hey, step into my world, let me help you. If I can't, I probably know someone that can, or maybe you're someone new into my sphere of influence that can help some of those that I'm trying to help. And so it's building that relationship pool, bringing them on into my sphere of influence, be it the Facebook group or the podcast, and then, sharing value. And I think at the beginning of the day, if you're trying to run any kind of business, that's one of the key things you want to do is connection. And one of the biggest connections is by sharing that value with your audience. And then further, for me, inside of your audience is that core folk of rabid fans who are your tribe, right?
Now, how
And
much time do
so
you spend on this? You do this every day?
I do this every day. Maybe it's I'll be realistic and say it's an hour and a half
Okay,
ish.
so
You know,
do you get
it's
up
not a lot of
early?
time.
Do you have any kind of morning routine that a lot of people talk about?
My morning routine is roll out of bed, hop on to the treadmill for a bit, or hit the weights for a bit. I'm lucky enough I have a little space in my home where I have a treadmill and some weights, so I can just roll out of bed and do that. You know, hang out with the missus for a while, have some breakfast. You know, a little reading, a little planning, and then open up the laptop and hit that for a bit.
Now, see,
And
here's one thing that since you mentioned it, I want people to know out there that treadmills can be used for a lot of different things.
mhm.
Mine is great for hanging shirts on the side of it. So it doesn't get a lot of, you don't even have to plug it in for that, by the way. So I just want people to know that.
Saves the power too, right?
Yeah, yeah, it saves your electric bill. Uh,
I think another thing that treadmills are good for is it's a learning opportunity. So if you decide to get on the treadmill, you obviously you want to move the shirts out of the way and you want to plug it in. But you actually get up there and start walking. It's an opportunity to grow your knowledge base, watch a video on something, listen to a podcast. Maybe you've bought some program that you're like, oh, maybe I need to dust this thing off and actually get the value out of that I bought for
Yeah,
out.
I
You know,
actually put a shelf across the arms of it so I can sit my laptop there and work actually.
yeah.
And even I saw this some guy from Harvard or something. We call it an iPlod instead of an iPod. And it's like even if you're walking at like 1 mile an hour, it's better than sitting.
Yeah,
You know, they say
absolutely.
sitting's like the new smoking or something. So
Yeah, and it gets all those juices.
mhm.
My wife is a personal trainer, so I could go deep into that, but I'd risk exposing my lack of knowledge. Anyway, so yeah, a little of that in the morning, and then over the course of the day, it's you know, having contact with students. You know, either the one-on-ones and the occasional group contacts, and then you'll get. I do my right now. I'm a solopreneur, right? I'm doing the
Mhm.
whole thing. I'm considering a VA as an opportunity on right around the corner here. I'm getting to that point where it's like, all right, I got too many things going on, which is a good problem to have,
Right,
right?
right.
So let's get them focused on the non-revenue generating activities so I can focus on the bigger ones. But, you know, answering the questions that pop in via emails, reaching out to folks like yourself to come on my show or get on their show so that I can help spread the word again organically.
Yeah, speaking of the show, tell them about your podcast.
My podcast is the Dark Horse Entrepreneur, and I picked Dark Horse because I think during the course of our lives, so many of us has felt like all the odds were stacked against us, right? That underdog kind of mentality. But for me, the dark horse is someone that, you know what, if I get out there and I actually take the action and I run the race, I could come in, win, place, or show. You believe in yourself, but maybe those around you, even on your inner circle, and while they may mean well, they're like, "Well, you sure you want to do that? You could risk it all, lose everything." You know, so the
Yeah.
dark horse entrepreneur is focused on what I call my dark horse tribe. And, you know, we get on just like you do here. You have guests come on the Monday episode, folks that are out in front of me. I want to learn from them and help my tribe learn from them as well. And then Monday, or excuse me, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Those are the weeks, right? Yeah, those are. Tuesday through Friday, I do short little episodes, you know, 15, maybe 20-minute long, that kind of are Tracy's spin-off of the topic maybe that the the guest was talking about. I had Colonel Carla Bass on a couple of weeks ago, and she's this award-winning writer, and she's been teaching all kinds of people how to write powerfully, impactfully, and in more short, succinct sentences and what have you. And so I spent the rest of the week talking about here's how you write for your web page, and here's how you write to convert, and here's how you set your space up to write. You know, so all these different things around writing, so that almost become a week of writing, and then you
Mhm.
get a week of marketing. And then we also touch base on, you know, personal development because it was such a big, powerful uh, pivot in my life that, if I hadn't gone through that and learned those tools, I probably would be, again, behind the bars, not having this conversation with you.
Wow, wow, wow. It's very powerful. So, how do you stay motivated?
You know, engaging with the folks on the other side of the
Hmm.
microphone
Yeah, I
and
get it.
or on the other side of Facebook or the other side of the email. I honestly believe 100% that if I could be in anybody's eulogies, like, hey, when they say I'm successful because of this one thing I learned, and they learned it, they don't have to say my name, but they learned it from me, then my job here is done. I have made the world an inkling better than it was when I landed here, right? I know I've made some things not so good. If I can make it just a little bit better, and I know it sounds all woo woo and altruistic and stuff, but it's true. If you can, if I can change someone's life 1 degree early on, then that 1 degree becomes, 300 degrees later in their lives if they continue on that path. And that really feeds me. I've been lucky enough to see a few people succeed past me. And you're like, yeah, that's kind of awesome.
Well, yeah, it happened like massively to me. I teach people how to recruit young people. I call them geeks and propeller heads, and
Hmm.
to help you, like the kid that's never going to get a date in his entire life. That's a kid you want. So uh, the kid I started in 1997, stole him out of CompUSA, just sold his third startup for $340 million. I
Nice.
said, "You're buying dinner next time I come to your town, buddy."
Right?
Yeah, he wrote an article in Forbes attributing his start in business to me, and I'm just thrilled to death about it. Yeah, he actually
That's
called me
awesome.
from a yacht in Greece with a couple supermodels on, on the thing.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to rub this in just a little bit,
Yeah,
Tom.
exactly. So tell him the website.
The website is darkhorseschooling.com. And, obviously all the socials will be there and you can connect with me. I'm very active, like I said, on Facebook and on Instagram and LinkedIn. And you can you can listen to the podcast right from there, or it will take you to any of the places that you like to listen to your podcast from, Spotify, Google, whatever it is. And you can subscribe and start checking us out.
Beautiful. Darkhorseschooling.com. So we'll have that in the
Absolutely.
show notes for everybody. And well, it's good catching up with you, Tracy. Really inspiring the way you overcame some really horrendous things to still keep doing good things in the world.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me aboard, Tom.
Okay, everybody, we'll catch y'all in